Hi everyone, it's been over 3 weeks since the release of Amazing Digital Circus, which has gained an insane amount of popularity, and the video itself has surpassed 80 million views, which means that there will definitely be a sequel. In this video, we will go through all the details that may be further in the series, talk about the future of each of the characters, and find out who will be scattered next, as well as try to set the approximate release date of the new episode of Amazing Digital Circus. I advise everyone to watch this video to the end, because there will be a lot of interesting things. And before the video starts, please subscribe to the channel, give us a like and a comment. As I said before, we are going to look at each character individually, but at the same time we have to combine them into a single story, which we have done. The first thing I want to talk about is Jax. From the pilot episode, we remember that Jax is a bit rude, unyielding, in a word, a joker, but in the most unpleasant variation of that word. In the second episode, we will still be introduced to Jax as an anti-hero who has absolutely no interest in the lives and mental state of the rest of the circus. I think he will also bully everyone, but at some point he will realize that some characters should not behave that way and start to correct his mistakes little by little. But it will not take long, because if you live your whole life with one way of thinking in your head, it is very hard to change to another. It seems to me that in the next episode, Jax will be left all alone, because after all his so-called jokes, hardly anyone will want to communicate with him. On the background of loneliness, Jax can close in on himself, or, on the contrary, go to a new level because he is ready to do anything to be noticed. It is unlikely that we will see any serious twists in Jax's storyline, because he is just a minor character, which is really nothing. I can't even say anything about Gangle and Zooble because these girls were not introduced to us in the pilot episode and we don't know much about them, but I can assume that gooseworx will tell us more about them. If we have to choose between them, I would prefer Zooble because her steely character can come out at the most inopportune moment. If we consider Gangle, I see only two options for the development of events. She will either disperse, but I believe in this I believe little, or also remain quiet and withdrawn, and in this case, the author to reveal something about her even no sense. Now I would like to talk about Kinger. This character is one of the main inhabitants of the circus, even if it does not seem so. In one of my videos, I proved that out of all the current characters of the circus, Kinger is the one who has been there the longest, not counting Kane, of course. Even in the pilot episode, we often noticed that he was already starting to go crazy. I think that trend will continue in the second episode. I think the loss of a loved one in this very circus, as well as the long term, gives Kinger a deeper picture of what's going on around him. In my opinion, Kinger has known for a long time that it is possible to get out of this circus through the very exits that sometimes appear in the show. On the one hand, we can assume that they appear at the will of the administrator, because I already told you that Pomni is an administrator along with Kane, thanks to which she can easily create exits, but she just doesn't realize it yet. Or, as in any digital system in Amazing Digital Circus, there could be a glitch that causes the characters to randomly open an exit to the real world instead of the virtual one. This brings us back to Kinger. In the new episode, there might be such a glitch, and Kinger will be a witness of it. Trying to enter there, he will, like Pomni in the pilot episode, lose consciousness and stay in the void. But as we know, even in a blacked out state, the character who has been in the void still remembers absolutely everything that happened to him in that very place. Kane will get a notification on his wacky watch as usual, but the whole situation will have a strong effect on Kinger, making him even more unstable. Now Kinger will start talking about a way out, although we all remember how he mocked Kaufmo for that, even though he knew the way out of the damn circus. With each new scene, Kinger will become more vulnerable and lost, which will eventually lead to Kinger's final descent into madness. And we all know what happens next. Time will come, and Kinger will disappear from the rest of the circus inhabitants. And then, similar to the situation with Kaufmo, he will be found in his room with a lot of strange drawings and inscriptions. And I'm more than sure that one of these drawings will again be a sinister image of Kane, who this time is chasing Kinger. Kinger will turn into a monster, and Kane will put him in the basement with the rest of the scattered inhabitants of the digital circus. And that, unfortunately, is probably the end of Kinger's story in the Amazing Digital Circus. Now let's move on to the sweetest and calmest girl in the circus, Ratha. As we remember from the pilot episode, Ratha was on the verge of going crazy, but Kane helped her in time. In the second episode, Ratha and Pomni will get closer, and as a result, we will be able to see the story of two good friends. Pomni will tell Ratha everything she knows, and Ratha will be the only one who believes in Pomni's words. After that, they will look for a way out together, but before that, something will happen to Ratha. Ratha will feel very bad about losing Kaufmo, even though his jokes and attempts to cheer everyone up seemed ridiculous and inappropriate and unfunny to her. Realizing that all of her contributions to Kaufmo are scattered, she will begin to think about how and if it is even possible to bring the scattered characters back into the digital circus. Ratha will begin to study absolutely every detail that can be found in the circus, while at the same time going a little crazy over the thoughts of Kaufmo that have completely taken over her head. With each new day, Ratha will find more and more oddities, but at the same time answers to her questions. And in the end, she will find the solution of how to bring the scattered character back to the circus and then return him to his normal state. And only after that she will get close to Pomni, who will help her to survive and not go crazy in this creepy place. Ratha and Pomni will try to get out of the circus together, but whether they succeed or not, I will tell you soon in the chapter about Pomni. Now it's time to talk about our main character, or villain, Cain. Cain will be introduced to us as before. He will be an ordinary administrator who keeps order in the digital circus and comes up with various activities for the circus inhabitants. But at a moment when Kinger, as we said before, falls into the void, Cain will show his true face. After rescuing Kinger, Cain will teleport with him to a secret room where he will show his bitter and terrifying version of himself, and he will also tell Kinger to keep quiet about the fact that he knows about the video and everything, which will result in what we talked about earlier happening to Kinger. After all of this, Cain will start to behave very differently. He will begin to deliberately create tasks that will make the other residents suffer, even though they will be presented as normal fun adventures. In addition, he will begin to act decisively against those who know a little more than they should. Perhaps Cain will create a squad of artificial monsters to secretly watch over everyone, and if anyone decides to find out what they don't need to know, these monsters will show up and scare or even beat the characters, while Cain just pretends that he has no idea what's going on and doesn't know how to remove all these monsters from the amazing digital circus. Luckily for Ratha, she'll be able to gather all the information she needs before Cain becomes what he really is. And now it's time to talk about Pomni. After all, her story, like no other, will be maximally covered by all of us. I am more than sure that despite all the failures in the pilot episode of the digital circus, Pomni will not give up her attempts to find a way out. She will probably act casual at first, pretending that she likes everything here and that she doesn't even think about escaping. However, we already remember that Pomni started to have problems in the pilot episode, and her mental state was not the best. And in the second episode, we will first see this struggle between calm and panic. But with time, the panic will subside, and Pomni will start to remember all the unusual things that happened to her. Like the hand she was able to heal herself, even though Ratha said only a Cain could do that. Or the exits that no one sees, but she sees them all the time. After some thought, Pomni realizes that she is also the administrator, and this circus can be controlled by her. Then her story with the Ratha begins, as a result of which they will realize how to create exits and that it will be possible to escape in this way. They begin to deliberately create chaos so that all the monsters created by Cain cannot cope with what is going on, and Cain himself will have to intervene. At this point, Pomni and Ratha will be able to steal Cain's crazy clock for a while and disable the void intrusion notifications. This will allow them to enter the void, but at some point Cain will realize this and start chasing them. He will be able to get Ratha back very easily, but with Pomni it will not be so easy, and at the very last moment, when Pomni already sees VR helmet that will allow her to return to the real world, she will be met by Cain. And that is the end of the second episode of Amazing Digital Circus. That's all for now. See you later.